Hey, thank you for tuning in to Work in Progress PlanetSide for PlanetSide 2 Hassan Edition. Today we're going to be looking at the Gorney Dam area for today. Currently that base is one that we kind of identified as one that needs a little bit more work when it comes to base flow and general accessibility for like senders and stuff like that. So that's going to be one of the major things that we're looking at with this particular base today. It's been worked on for, I don't know, maybe a day and a half or so by me. I redid the facade for the front of it, and I've kind of laid the groundwork for how we want to do the new layout flow for the base. So it's not something that is being too kind of put together on air before we actually, so we can dig into it, and it'll be a little bit more interesting than kind of doing stuff from scratch. So without further ado, we're going to go into that right now and take a look what we have here so far. All right, so here is what we have of Gorney Dam, which is a little bit torn up compared to what it used to be under construction, work in progress. So as you can see here, let's take a quick tour around here. Hello, Dark Texas. Thank you for coming again. So here is the front part. Let me get the object tool over there. So here's the front part of the base. This used to be a little bit more kind of like kinked and bent up without this kind of overall more graceful arc, although it is backwards for an actual functional dam that you'd see in the real world today. Should be kind of concave rather than vex. So but yeah, we've got this big dam over here, and some kind of plans that have been outlined with this too. So over here we've got the ramp that I built up that takes you to the Gorney Dam, coming over from construction site Lambda, which is a base that will be getting redone totally. This is one of the stamp bases that we're going to be pulling and kind of turning into something a little bit more interesting and unique for this area. Right over here is Cairn Station, kind of I don't know what the word you call it. It's kind of scattered over an area with 3 points as a large outpost, and it's actually a really fun outpost that I like a lot. And I kind of want to do something that's a little similar to that over here with the 1 point base Lambda. This one's kind of in rough shape. Some of the stuff needs to get fixed up on it. For instance, you pull a vehicle out of this thing and you can't really get out of here. So this is stuff that I'm happy to start changing on that. But anyway, so over here is the Gorney Dam, and so on the western side of the base we've got this long bridgey road that takes you up to the top of it. And takes you up out here. So as you'll know, to the right over here is where I have the new western vehicle pad to kind of spit players out once they get their vehicle over here. So this is the western vehicle pad. I want to make some of the changes that I'm looking to do with this as well, is make fighting to X-Tab not as rough as it is right now. Over here, this mess of lights over here should be X-Tab Western power regulation, I believe. And right now, as it stands, getting over there means you were like driving 2 chunks away. This is a long distance, like, I don't know, 300 meters, 400 meters or something like that. It's pretty wild. One of the changes that I want to make is actually put a vehicle pad over here that kind of spits out, towards over here in this part of the road. This little mesa over here I want to knock down, and I want to have a road that kind of comes down here across this spillway where the dam's gate is. As you can see, I've kind of got this sediment collected at the bottom. Like, this is something that opens up occasionally and lets out some of the water up here, the poison water. So So that's kind of how I want to handle that. I want to have this come over a bridge to be in like kind of nice and scenic that you're driving right into this thing. We've got this big monolithic object here, but we don't really have anything that lets you get close to it enough to kind of really appreciate the size and scale of it, as well as have it function as a combat area, which I think it can do. If you go in infantry mode here, you've got your cover kind of built into the side of this thing that goes along. And I want to get a bridge over this, and we're going to have it kind of hook up over here somewhere, maybe into this actual, turn this into an intersection, and we'll go from there. But as it stands, I don't really see any use to this gameplay area over here, so we might as well make it usable space if we can. But that's kind of going to be something that we have to kind of temper to make sure that with the way the paths go from Ixtab to Gorny Dam, that you don't end up confusing people and making them go down here when they can't actually attack the Gorny Dam that way. So we're going to have to work on that to make sure that they don't get lost that way. So that's where I'm taking that. So, kind of looking at what we're doing here otherwise, we've got, see on the bridge, this is going to be one of the main attack points for attackers, is going to be up through here. We've got a fair amount of space that you're able to kind of take as an attacker over here. And I also want to get a lesser route on this side over here. Currently the bubble for spawns is kind of a little restricted for that. So this thing is going to be pulled in a little bit. I can't do it over here because we don't have data hookup on this computer. But I'll probably scale it in a bit so you can park a sender over here, and maybe I'll have some sort of bridge that goes over and across that way. As it stands right now, I've got these two paths that lead under the two big trees here. And those take you to this warehouse building, which is the current tentative cap point for the room, or for this base. I'm not exactly sure whether or not I want to keep this as a warehouse building, or if I want to kind of turn this into more of an industrial dam looking thing, essentially, to, you know, place some like pumps and stuff like that. And I just want to make sure that the only thing I'm really concerned about with that is that it's not too open for air. But that's something that we can always throw a couple AA turrets over here somewhere and maybe deter some of that. As it stands right now, these guys are kind of at least covering up a little bit, but all right. So what we've got right now is coming from these Sundo garages. You run forward through here, and over here, go down. What we've got is where this cap point is tentatively placed, and for the attackers, or that's from the attacker's point of view. From the defender's point of view, the spawn room and teleporter room areas need a little bit of work. So we've got a, what is this? So 4 times 30. So we've got 120 meters from the spawn room for defenders. And what is this? This is another 120. So these are roughly equal, pointing at the middle of it here. So that's kind of the way. See that? It should be relatively equal going across there. Attackers, or defenders rather, are going to have a path that comes back here that's going to be kind of the long way, but it's a safe one because attackers aren't really going to be back here for the most part. You'll see like interference with aircraft like Liberators and stuff like that messing around back here, but the majority of the fight's going to be up front over in this area over here. And I want to bring some of this man-made mechanical looking stuff over here to replace some of these rocks and stuff like that. Stuff that we can get, like stepping stones like these, I kind of have placed. They kind of function as a little bit as kind of cover between the two points over here that you're able to kind of get yourself between them. So if there's like any crossfire over there, you can help out but still have some sort of cover. What else do we got going on here? But yeah, I want to kind of move this sort of like man-made mechanical dam looking filtering stuff and move that up here and have some of the natural stuff just kind of be off to the sides. Gurney Dam is supposed to be a big man-made object, and I don't want to have too much nature in here. I think the two big trees kind of flanking the entrances for attackers is probably enough. So that's my take on that. Computer is frozen. There we go. And as I was saying over here, we've got a vehicle pad on this side, and I want to put another one like over here somewhere, coming from the teleporter room, which is going to be placed over in this corner, probably in this area over here. And I'm going to have that spill out over here. Personally, just to make this drive a little bit less time intensive. And given that too, that we've got the option with these chunks being everything up until this line over here, everything over here is editable without it being any extra download time on your guys' end. So I'd like to kind of foster a little bit more of a battlefield over here rather than just having it be a drive up this canyon and the tanks will wear each other down eventually. So that's, I mean, that's sort of stuff that we can do, like I showed with Chak West, the Fusion Lab. Had another canyon road like this, and what ended up happening was that, you know, these like steep cliff sides ended up having infantry paths over there, so infantry and vehicles are able to kind of interact with each other more, kind of showing off the combined arm stuff in our game rather than it just being vehicles slug it out over here and infantry just kind of like walks behind him or travels alongside in a Sunder or something like that. So that's our plans for this, so let's start moving along with that. Like I said before, I want to get kind of an alternate placement over here for vehicle or for Sunders, so you can put your stuff over here and we have maybe like some stepping stones or something that'll take you across here. Not the primary pathway to get across here. I want these two to be the main attacker points, but just to give you an option. And I want to separate this off a little bit, put some man-made stuff over here, man-made stuff over here, but have a path that kind of allows the attackers and defenders to kind of meet up over here and fight a little bit as well. This thing is choking over here. I gotta see what's up with that. 1 second. There we go. So I kind of want the clash points essentially where you're going to run up into other players to be kind of like over here, this whole area at the cap point, and I don't want to go too far out of that area. Wish I knew it was choking over here though. Keep getting hitches on the in-terrain editor, which is kind of weird. Okay, so let's start just deleting stuff, because in my experience at least, having these objects sit here for no other good reason other than that they're there just makes me want to kind of keep them, or my mind works with that, with these objects in mind. So if they're here and it's kind of a blank slate, I do not have them influencing me anymore. So this point is kind of this part's going to be a little bit naturey, and this part over here is going to be pretty much man-made. So we can start working with that. So this stuff over here is going to go, but I'm going to keep stuff similarly themed and kind of put it alongside the air. Same thing with this side over here. This stuff is not going to be kind of kept in the current state it is, but I'm going to have stuff similarly themed. Like, I know when you're fighting alongside these things and you're kind of like you can kind of see people pop their heads over there, but you're ducking and you're kind of like crouching and walking along this stuff's fun, and I want to keep that. I got rid of some stuff like those concrete shacks that were over here. There were some turrets that I don't really think that they did much of their job. They were kind of like pointing inwards here, so I got rid of those, and I got rid of the main cap point building here. You can see that the area shape and the location of the spawn room are right there. Alright, so let's start pulling this stuff out. Same thing with this over here. This is going to be kind of the edge of where nature is with these over here. So let me turn that area off so I don't see that and accidentally select and delete it anymore. Kraken, I'd like to do water flowing from rocks. We don't have the water effect that we are going to get very soon finished just yet, so I can't really do anything with that. Right now we have only got like steam, electric, some sparks and stuff like that we can put down, but nothing like water flowing out of the rocks. We can use something like the water planes that we used on Amarish's rivers, but, excuse me, those are using like a clear, nice looking, potentially like drinkable water, and this is garbage that will kill you immediately, so. So that's that. So I'm going to start trashing this stuff. I want to keep using these blue ones because I think they fit the water theme a little bit better. I might as well start illustrating some of these points too for my own, to keep them kind of along in my own mind here. So, got this point, and we've got this point. Let's kind of lead towards the center there. And we've got ones over here that we'd like to do as well. So they're kind of coming from this area, and they're going to be a little bit longer. But I want to kind of make them a little bit nestled in here too. Because vehicle pad's going to be over here, so it's got to come out maybe. I haven't settled yet on whether or not I actually want to do the vehicle pad over here, because this spot over here we've talked about putting a spot over here that's kind of an alternate point to one of these little bus barns over here. But one of the things we want to make sure is that the vehicles that come out of this vehicle pad do not just immediately roll around and blow the thing up. So I've got to make it a little bit hidden at least, to make sure that that's not a thing. So I'm going to have to probably put some more man-made stuff over here. And one of the other things that we've, just for as an aside, is that this area has also gotten the eco reduction for these 6 chunks that we're looking at here. Used to see a lot more red, a lot more dark orange in these areas, and some of the stuff that doesn't need as many ecos as it was, but it was still rendering them, was actually costing a few frames. So you might, when you're playing in this area, assuming this land is rendered now, you should be seeing maybe a couple frames performance boost in this area. We're doing that across the board. Any bases that we touch from here on out, they're going to be getting this eco reduction to make them play a little bit better. So, welcome to people still coming in. It's good to see you guys again. So, we are still taking performance changes as we go along, especially with stuff like this eco reduction. Any chunks that we touch, we're going to be doing that too. So, all right. So we got to start pulling this stuff apart over here because I want to get the kind of hashed out layout for what we were looking at doing with these. As I said, I got to go back to placing these sticks in the ground. I've lost it. This is hard to click. There we go. Move that over there. And so these all kind of face towards the middle. Make these a little bit bigger too. These are just kind of stamping stuff out in my head. There we go. So these are kind of outlining our potential points for attackers coming through here. These outer ones are probably going to be a little bit longer than these more direct interior ones. But they've got to go over the bridge, which can be mined. That's kind of a very clear where they're going to be at. Not all that much cover once they get over here. Okay. We've got ones coming from the spawn room over here, which is going to fatten up this meter stick too. And I copy one for the teleporter room. We should be set. Although these spots might be moving around a little bit too. There we go. So, like I said, this back spawn room here is kind of far off. So moving this meter stick to kind of be a little bit more towards where the other one is. Yep. That's kind of a little bit more in line there. So So some of the stuff I've seen with how this base flows from what players have told me is that currently the flow for it, just to kind of explain some of the changes that I'm making for this base. So some of the way the flow, as I understand, if players have told me right now, is currently on live. Let's imagine that this is like live. Spawn room is over here. That part actually hasn't changed. The computer is hitched. There we go. So there is a teleporter room over here, vehicle pad over here, kind of spills you out over this way, and the fight is a very west defenders, east attackers. The problem with that, however, is that you've got multiple bases that spill out on this west side as well. So if you've got attackers coming over here, but the best spot to actually attack the base is on this side in the log over here, not really a base that's intuitive that plays well, is my kind of take on that. So what we want to do is kind of make it a little bit more attackable in the ways that players expect them to be. And kind of the philosophy behind our level design here is that the back end of this base that nobody will attack from is the actual dam itself. You can absolutely gouge drop on here. You could fly a scythe into it and jump out at the last second and start, messing with the defenders on this side. But the understanding is that the majority of players are not going to be like taking jump jets and kind of, parking their Sunder down here and just jump jetting up here to mess with the defenders from the back. As a result, the back over here is where you're going to see these spawns and teleporters for defenders. This makes the southern side the defender side and the northern side the attacker side, which is kind of just across the board a lot more intuitive for players to kind of go with. I don't think anybody attacking this base coming up from this tunnel over here is going, okay, we're going to actually park our Sunder on the other side of the base that we just drove up because there's no other way to get along there. I think the core of the problems with Gorny Dam is the intuitiveness of where you're supposed to be putting your Sunder and everything like that. And as a result, that's why I don't end up playing, at least when I've been there. The fights I see are usually short and they're not very large. And since it's the center of the map, we want to actually really, foster some decent fights here. So that's why we're making these changes. Big reason why. So we're basically orienting the base from west defender, east attacker to south defender, north attacker. And as a result, I believe the base will play a lot better. So now we've got our sticks placed down that are kind of approximately the same distance. We can start getting these lanes that we were speaking about earlier in place. So this area is going to be man-made over here. I really wish this thing would stop chugging. That might have been it. Didn't seem like it liked being closed all that much. Okay. The actual building part, we haven't done too much of that yet today. So I think we're going to I might as well save this bridge and drag it over. Be taking parts of this over here, salvaging the pieces so I don't have to set them up on my own. These bridges aren't too bad. Studio lights are kind of bright, so I've probably forgotten multiple pieces of this when I start pulling it over. Do we get snap on? Oh, follow off. Oh, I got everything. So I'm going to bring this guy over here. I'm going to leave that there. Yeah, Vonik, I'm aware of that. There's going to be some variation in the distance in these. In the case of these garages here, when they're just a direct line as the crow flies, it's absolutely not a great measure of how long or the distance between the bases. It's definitely a little There's a little bit of wiggle room there for that. And you see the same stuff with this. Obviously, if I have this measuring stick over here, which is 120 meters, and then I have the only route going over is like this thing, the bridge that goes over here, you got to go down there, and then you got to go up and over across. That's probably, you know, that could be twice as long as this particular measuring stick is. So I want the lanes to be fairly, or the paths to this cap point over here to be relatively linear. So there's not too many like turns that you got to take coming into this, going through here. Pretty straight shot. Same thing with this one. I was saying before, I do want to have like what we got over here without making you go as far back as this current bridge does. But I want to have a back way to get to the center area over here, regardless of whether or not we're going to be keeping this warehouse. I definitely want a back way over here so that if you're spawn camped or just over pop, that you've still got a chance to get out of the spawn area over here and go through the back route. Essentially, there's only so many, you know, places that the attacker is going to be able to hold down, essentially. So it should hopefully give the defenders a little bit more of a fighting chance, even if they're out popped. Tunnel underground is not doable on this, just due to the water planes. Technically, if I wanted to shrink this water plane and then add a bunch of mismatched ones next to it, we could probably get new water planes to having you go underground, but that's not really feasible with what we got over here. This water plane goes pretty far across, and I could shrink it, but that's the reason why there's this extra lip over here, is because that's a secret. They'll tell anyone that, though. Alright, so we're going to have a back route over here for the defenders, which I want to make a little bit more intuitive. Like, this bridge down here is way too far south. I really don't care if players, or if this is even really used space, as this part of the dam over here. It's kind of more of just a decoration than a gameplay space, really. Select our teleporter room, move this over. And we're going to start moving a bridge over here. Kind of goes across from this door out to here, to this one, to the back over here. Let me just delete this one. Just going to copy that smaller bridge. This one's kind of big and it's got some stuff on it. Get rid of that. Phonic's right. Square is a polygon. Hitch. Yeah, I've got something like 700 hours on my character, so I definitely play with it. Object count really depends on, Darth Sebius asked, how much do you think object count affects your design decisions when making these bigger bases? This was probably a bigger problem when we were incorrectly placing instance objects with just more single tile platforms, and rather than the big 4x4 pieces we have now. The polygons the extra triangles basically added by this piece, which is not super light on polygons, but it's not like heavy either. Polygons are not really a big tax on GPUs at this point in time. They've gotten a lot better over the past few years with processing massive amounts of polys. So basically having one object that has 16 individual tiles in it and just spreading that over, like, this is a lot of gameplay space here that you get out of placing multiple tiles down, which you will see once this thing stops hitching. So you've got these two pieces here, but these are just two objects to get this down, and it's a bunch of extra polygons, but not a big deal. So So there's that. So I'll get back into copying this bridge over. I got distracted and I unselected everything. I'm going to shrink the bubble because that may help with this hitching issue I'm running into right now. Switch to 7. There, that might work a little better. Goku Zay asked, how often do you resign a base because you got really angry at it during gameplay? Oh man, I wish I could tell you. There's a lot of bases when I'll play something after designing it, and I'll be like, how did I miss this? But that happens on every single level that we make. Some are more egregious errors than others, but it happens. It happens enough that you know, sometimes you'll go like, oh, I got to move this. I got to add a couple crates here, or I got to, cut off line of sight from the spawn room to this other thing, that sort of thing. That's pretty common. It's just difficult with the amount of content that we put out for levels to be able to see every single thing all the time. So there are plenty of situations like that where something needs to get redone because it wasn't missed, or the players managed to be a little bit more clever than we thought we were than we'd ever thought. So yeah, often's a pretty good gauge on that, man. I definitely see stuff in bases that I've made and stuff like that. Like the Ziggurat needed a bunch of extra cover on the spawn platforms and ways to get over to the other side. So we ended up adding chain pads to throw you over to the other side of the Ziggurat onto the main level, and that helped out with defenders being able to get out of that spawn room a little bit better than they were able to previously. And that's a pretty good example. Level tool not really doing its job here. There we go. I needed to jiggle the checkbox. Darcebius asked, which bases have I made that didn't work out as intended, for better or for worse? Can't think of any on Hassan that have been like, how did I not see that coming? But a lot of the ones that I have done a while, like way back, didn't pan out as well as I'd hoped. Broken Arch, I think, is probably the best example of that. Granted, I haven't touched that one in like, I don't know, a year and a half now since we did the initial Indar revamp, but the changes that were made to it during that Indar revamp were better than what was there before, but it's still a rough base. It's one of the ones when we start working, when I start working on Indar again, kind of more on a full-time position, that's one of the ones I want to do first. Vonic, yeah, abandoned NS office is going to be one of the ones that I'm getting rid of as well and replacing with something that's functions in our game. Interlink facility is on ice now. It's not canceled by any means, but we are holding off on it. Adding a new facility into Hassan is probably not going to give us the same bang for our buck that doing a battle island will. And it's a lot of art time to do a facility as opposed to getting some props that we can use, like in the context of the city. Believe me when I say that the trade-off for doing the city for the interlink is a very, very good one. Because we're going to get a bunch of cool stuff, I think, out of that. Devin was working on white boxing a pedestrian bridge that we can use for, getting players over a road and stuff like that. And that's going to be something that probably doesn't sound all that exciting to you guys, maybe. But as a level designer, that's kind of that'll solve a lot of problems when it comes to how do we make this boring road be something that infantry can do on and stuff like that. So. Now with abandoned NS offices, I kind of want to make it a little bit more of a sprawling complex rather than what it is now. Abandoned NS offices probably has some of the oldest level design in Hassan, or excuse me, on Indar, and it definitely shows. You can get fun fights at that place, but I think the fights that you're getting out of it are on the battlefield leading up to it, or when it's kind of a very, very even fight with little vehicles. But once you start getting any amount of vehicles over there, that place crumbles pretty quick, and that's why it's one of the ones up for the chop and block first. But since it's played at less than the center area that I had been working on last time I did work in progress, like a month ago or so, that's why it's not number one. The stuff that's going to be done first is the West Highlands checkpoint going down to Aladam North to Indar Comrade. So that stuff's going to be first on the list. So I'm a little distracted here trying to answer questions and paint mud and stuff at the same time. I gotta find all my brushes and stuff too. There you go. Yeah, Vonik, I think Howling Pass isn't in too bad of shape. The stuff that it needs is kind of just better points for attackers. The terrain outside of Howling Pass is pretty brutal, and it's almost entirely because it's just a meat grinder trying to actually get up to the gates. And if you kind of take that out of the equation, I think the base will probably play a lot better. The interior plays fine when you're inside of it, in my opinion at least. The defenders have a good, they're able to blink at people if they're overrun. You're able to defend from air and stuff up there. I mean, there's always the threat of people coming from behind the cliffs down to the spawn point, but that doesn't really happen as often, at least in my experience. I have somehow signed myself out. Did I hit back on there? There we go. I gotta get back in the chat. I can't see you guys talk anymore. Didn't seem to help our hitching problem too much, but I think it's a little bit less common. So I'm going to start pulling these supports under here, moving them over to this bridge. Copying them over. Got that, and you see what I was doing earlier with pulling these out. This is just a optimization stuff over here with reducing these single railings and just replacing them with the 3x1s, which we'll see over here as well. This one only gets 2 because this one's is a 7 wide. Yeah. Yeah, I missed your guys. If you guys any comments of what I was yapping about when it comes to Howling Pass, I didn't. No, I did it again. Hold on, I know what I did this time. There we go. I was clicking the edge of the edge of Twitch on my second monitor. But yeah, I think one of the things too is that I'm going to be a little bit more liberal with my use of props in particular areas on Indar. If there's no gripes using, like, we're able to get away with using like the Highlands trees, the green ones with the big branches on them, on Indar, probably a little bit farther into the ocean bed area than we currently do. That stuff is still canyons, and stuff still kind of fits the theme. So there's no reason to not give some air cover down in that area via trees or something like that. I think it's kind of just brutal because the ocean bed doesn't have too much cover, and adding the occasional tree isn't going to hurt anybody, assuming it's not too deep into to ocean bed territory. So especially areas like, Quartz Ridge and Indar Comare and Howling Pass, definitely able to put some green trees over there, and the succulent trees can probably even go into the actual ocean bed region pretty far. So there we go, we got our bridge over there, and I don't think we're too far off from these bridges down here. I'm going to move this one up a little bit. This isn't like, no, it's not even at an angle, so that should be easy to move up. Take this light post, put it up there. Just start clicking all this stuff and moving it up 10 meters. 1, 2. Same with all this. Yep. I think I moved that up 15. There we go. So in this particular case, I think I'm just going to move the railing to the other side. Just going to hide that. Take these. Move them over there and hide those, and then delete the center part there and copy this over. I copied the platform over. So there we go. Kind of interfere with some fights over there. You still have plenty of cover on this thing. So that's bridge 1. And bridge 2 I'm going to kind of end up roughly on the same axis there. So I'm going to move this one up a little bit more. This is the one you're already going to be hiking to get to, since it's part of the teleporter room, so you've got a little bit more of a indirect route to get there. Still getting rid of this bridge down here. Clean up these groups. I can reevaluate if I want to put anything here after this is all done, but as it stands right now, it's just taking up space in my head. So, same thing with this guy down here. Gonna move this up 10 meters. These need to be replaced by 3x3s. Probably just make this a few less objects overall. Kraken mentioning the Indar Xcav and Quartz Ridge fights kind of don't really end. I'm going to be taking a look at that area too, and I think a lot of that fight in particular is due to the lack of cover around Indar Xcav. I think with a few more Sunder spots that are viable around Indar Xcav, you will see fights not stagnate there as much as often. So that's one of the things I want to do on that. I disagree, Goku. Super Dad, we are currently going through Gorney Dam right now on Hassan. We're going through the new flow of this. The message that I was giving people watching the stream earlier was a north and south. We're changing the flow from defenders to the west. Attackers have to beat in the east to attack the space properly. To defenders in the south, attackers in the north, and I think the base flow is going to be a little bit better. Shredstone, we can take a look at that next stream to kind of so we don't have to answer this too much. Dreamlab Cirrus is kind of like way off in the distance if we decide to do that. We've got 2 battle islands that are higher up on priority first, and maybe some work on Indar too. So. Mithras, the spawn rooms for Quartz Ridge are up a bit high just because make them a little bit less campable. I think the way to help out Indar's Cav spawn rooms in the way that they are, they could be a little bit lower with some air cover coming from the Havar region to prevent tanks that like lock down and just shell those and make those a little bit easier to defend or to kind of get out of the spawn room there. I can take a look at that spawn room area again. I don't think it worked out as well as it could have. So they're in the position I want them to be, but they're not necessarily done the best. Alright, so the back area is down here. We've got the back route that I was talking about earlier, with giving players that are at the spawn room or the teleporter room to get across to this back area pretty easily. So I've got these bridges that are not all that different from from what was there before. They were definitely the long route, but they're definitely the safest one. So, and yeah, I guess that's another thing I want to do is move the teleporter room a little bit farther from the spawn room at Quartz Ridge. That could be said of a few of my bases. Alright, so let's start getting the mixed area where I expect attackers and defenders to kind of meet up over here. I want to spread out the places where players will be clashing with each other to be a little bit more than just 2 choke points over here. I also want to move it to over this area over here. Same thing with over here. We're going to have players filtering out from a multitude of locations, and there's no reason to kind of funnel them in through just two choke points over here. But I don't want to have it be like Swiss cheese that you can just kind of walk through the whole thing. So. This is one of those things where I've kind of been dragging my feet on getting around to doing this because the objects are still here. So I think it is time for some of this stuff to go. So we're getting rid of some of that there, and should hopefully head can fill in the blank for the rest of the stuff that I want to put over here. Kind of stuff in the same theme. I still want it to be, you know, purification, dam themed, so not too much different from what we've got over here. Let's start pulling this stuff out. I don't care. This is going. We'll rebuild it later. Trying to save stuff that you know that you're not going to need is, I think, one of the biggest things that hampers me, at least when I'm making a level. So I think I know what I want to do here. This is going to be part of the water. That all goes under. I'm going to keep this wall over here because there's like this retaining wall. And these are kind of hard to at least bypass by like jumping up and trying to screw with the like, you know, okay, my foot caught this tiny little ledge I can jump up on, stuff like that. These walls are kind of hard to get around that, so I'm going to keep these here. We'll worry about the surrounding stuff over here later. What I want to do now is get this path that goes kind of like out from here, goes over, and we've got some dam themed stuff over in the these platforms. Same thing with this side. This is going to be a little bit more man-made than it currently looks, which is currently just this lumpy plane. Super Dad, this is not a construction site replacement, although we are going to be doing one down here, which is currently only partially rendered. This one will be getting replaced too, just because it's in such a high traffic area that I kind of want to have something more unique down there. So that's what we'll be doing for that, but not right now. So we've got the option of making this stuff a little bit more circular up here, which we may be able to do with like stepping stones or something in the water. So what I'm going to do is take this rock over here, pull this out, and I'm going to shrink it down and flatten it. They'll never know it floats though. Where did my brush go? There we go. Start smoothing this stuff down. Strength is at 800. That's pretty wild. Oop. Smooth this stuff down. No reason for this to be that high anymore. Should be able to take the hill tool, bring this stuff down. Depending on how we want to do this, we might be able to make this little area here be kind of a little fortressy, actually. So it might be a better attack point, actually, than these dam or the bridge spots are for this dam. So yeah, we can kind of get like a little road that go, or little footpath that goes down here. You can jump across these things, get to the other side, and hook up with your buddies here on this side, just at least to give you kind of a little bit of choice here. Let's take a look too. I want to make sure that this bubble isn't totally... Yeah, so I think this point's probably going to be a little bit more over on this side. I'm going to place this under dummy over here. Yeah, man, I haven't like done the actual numbers for jumping between these rocks or anything just yet, so let's see how it goes, because this rock has got to be a little bit more flatter with the spot that you can jump up onto, so you can like billy goat up there. Not done yet though. So bring this spot down a little bit. We've got our Sunder garage over here. Start pulling up some of our damn props too. We're gonna need a lot of stuff over here to kind of really sell what's going on with this. Probably some of these concrete walls too. Take one of these over. Definitely doesn't need to be this ridiculously big though. Bring it down to 2. Yeah, this thing's still probably a little bit big. Probably figure out something that looks better. See what I want to do with this one. Just have it so that it's going to have kind of a battlement over here, I guess. So that when you've got vehicles coming from the terminal over here, you can kind of stave them off a little bit when they've got a road coming over into this area. But I haven't repainted the road here either, so we've got a lot of work left on Gurney Dam before this thing's ready to go. Alright, start pulling this stuff down. Treadstone asks, were construction sites a temporary design concept used to streamline the content and the usability, or are they also an intended base design? And the answer for that is both. We needed something to fill in some spots on Hassan, and those only took a day to implement using groups. Even though they're kind of semi-handcrafted, they are using the same base and some of the same buildings for each other. So we knew that they would work as a base, but But yeah, they weren't intended to be all permanent, but that can go, that can go. So some of this stuff too we gotta get rid of. It's using different textured blocks than we need. So there's some stuff that I gotta think about too, what's gonna end up doing with this, because we're gonna have a sunder spot over here, and it's probably gonna be open air. I don't want people from the spawner over here really messing too much with it, so I'm gonna have to figure out a solution for that too. Yeah, I mean, Treadstone, we're not exactly sure whether or not we want to spend the time replacing each and every stamp base, because that's stuff that, you know, there's higher priority stuff that I think we'd rather do, but that's, I guess that's more my opinion than anything, so, but I know there's work rather than redoing an entire base for, you know, 3-4 days, whatever it takes to create a small base from scratch. I could spend those 3-4 days on Indar and probably make a wide area of the game a lot better than just one base that had a functioning base now has a unique functioning base on it. That's kind of my take on it, but the Gorny Dam after this, unfortunately. So this split over here is kind of tricky. Yeah, maybe I'm just going to have a river go into this one too. Maybe these blocks aren't here. Maybe this tree is straddling a river. Snow's going. Alright, so now that we got this over here, I can see how we want this to hook up with the other parts of the space. So how far can we get with putting a poison river under this thing? Where does the water plane ends pretty quick under there. Can I get away with extending it any? Nope. It's gonna be tough. I think Gorny Dam is going to be one of the more challenging ones that I've been dreading doing, so. Right now I'm just stubbing in ugly concrete blocks and just kind of leaving them here. I will put stuff that is more visually appealing afterwards, but as it stands, I want to make sure that this is separated as I intended it to be. So we can have kind of platforms come off of this and hook up into this area over here so that it's not just a straight point this way and shoot things. You have to actually keep an eye on this too. You can always fall back and start moving back from there. Seems like an alright way to go about it. Have that kind of come out. Platforms over this way. It's going to be a little parking lot sort of thing. I'll put one of these things over it. Maybe this bridge isn't just going to be here at all. Later bridge. And you got like a log or something you can go across. I don't feel like using that many objects for this. Oh man, look at that performance. That was like 15 objects I got rid of. So there we go. You're going to be using this log instead of a bridge. Deal with it. Column over here. That's not it. There we go. So hopefully this will provide, I think I need to make it a little bit bigger, but that'll provide some air cover, and I don't know if there's people just like trying to chuck C4 in, at least I gotta get closer in. Deploy shield kind of takes the C4 problem. Takes care of the C4 problem being like an instant blew up my bus. So over here, I think I'm gonna have these come in level. This bridge will come across as well, so I'm going to get these 2x2s and move them over. No, not in snap. 2x2s, snap over. The hell's up? Oh, that's terrain. That's what that is. Build like the world's worst log cabin. Yeah, I don't think it really would make a good house out of these. These logs aren't really like processed for that sort of thing. Can make it a little wider though. This branch is going to be like sticking out and pretty annoying. Spin it. That one's better. Treadstone, I don't have any like concrete feedback on our Valkyrie performance opinions just yet. That's not really, I don't really collect that sort of thing either, so. To man, I have not figured out what I'm having for dinner yet. It's a crime for sure, but. My single tiles. So this is kind of the other clash spot I expect, maybe. I'm gonna make those two hook up with each other though. So it's gotta have something coming over from this area over here, coming over there. So I want this whole area to be kind of a combat zone. Maybe I can do something like this to kind of get some cover in between those, because putting cover in this thing is kind of difficult. So if I just take this pump and then spin it around, and some good themed cover, so you can not necessarily just have line of sight going across this. I might want this one to go another tile that way. So we've got that branch going over. Each tile's 5 by 5 meters, man. Maxes are not 25 feet wide. So I got this path that goes over there. I'm still going to figure out how it interacts with the main defender attack path from over here. So I gotta get rid of this stuff now. Clear this out. I don't think PPA mag riders are going to be over the space any more than they particularly were in the past, though. It's one of my favorite comments every time I'm on stream. It's just like, oh man, mag riders are going to be up on that hill. It's like, that's something they do. Mag riders do not float on water, thankfully. You could probably stick three wide maxes on these if you're going to run with the Aegis shield. Blue Angel, I'm sorry for letting you down. This is not inside the player studio. So I think I'm going to do is have this cross kind of a little river over here and give defenders the naturally high ground in regards to this path, and that's only maybe like 2 meters up. So I'm going to copy this over here. Bring this over. So, putting that down. So one of the things coming with the bridge over here we're going to run into is that the spaces are not going to be the same, because I don't think these tiles are necessarily 5 by 5. It comes with the stair tiles, rather. So, start bringing this over here, down to this size. It's only looking at a couple meters height advantage for defenders when they're interfering with the spawns for this. I gotta put some props over here so that you can't just shoot rockets at it from here. So I'm gonna put a tree down. I figure out to do something with that. Anyway, it's just a stubbed end thing over there. Kind of want to give the defenders a solid or the attackers rather a solid platform too, to give them kind of a height advantage over here. So I want this area, I want this center area here to be kind of the slugfest where things happen. But I need to temper it with some cover and stuff like that, so it's not just a one big area here that they're fighting in. Well, the high ground may not necessarily work that way, so I have to kind of figure out what we're doing with that just yet. This stuff all changes a bunch of times as the base is coming along. So This bridge is only a couple feet high, so if there's something like a AP turret over here that kind of has a line of sight over this area blocked and it just shoots this way, that's something that could help out with that. But right now I'm just kind of stubbing the paths in here to get something going. So we've got this spot over here kind of hashed in, so we can take a look now on this side and see where we want the Sunder garage on the opposite side for this part to go. Well, not a Sunder garage. It's going to kind of just be a space that you can park in. So we're going to go with that, I think. So turning off objects for a second. We've got over there 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's probably going to be in this little spot over here. I might have to bring some of the dirt out of the ground and flatten some of this. So this kind of like mountain stuff is going to be not present in Gurney Dam 2.0. In favor of more man-made stuff. And throw some trees back probably there, but so I've got this area. Flattening all this stuff probably wasn't necessary. I'll probably end up adding some trees and stuff there, or maybe a little wall or something to kind of give this its own little, drive your stuff in here, park it, put it down, defend it from vehicles as they kind of try and attack you otherwise. So that's right, spot over here somewhere. So I'm going to pull some of this dirt from the depths below. And does that look good? So there we go. We're going to kind of replicate the same thing over here as we did over here. These paths that go in that are kind of catwalky. What about that small two-story building next to the garage? What small two-story building? We're building this over here. So, got this spot over here. This kind of touches that right there. This kind of touches one right over here. Be able to lower this down a little bit. And I'm just going to paint mud over this. Once again, this is one of those things where the terrain or objects present influences what's going on in my head creatively. Smoothing that out. Taking some of the vertex coloring and rubbing that off. Dreamweb, Dave Carey does some like interviews and stuff like that, but in terms of his day-to-day tasks, I don't think watching him mess around in the task tracking software is all that exciting. So, same thing on this side. So we've got this area where we know these, there's going to be an attacker point over here. But we still have these props over here that we do not need anymore. And they are going to go this stuff's all easy to replicate again once this base is a little bit more fleshed out. So there's no need to like worry that this stuff is going to be gone for good, or the theme of the base is ruined or anything like that. At least just not yet. Task tracker is basically, well, our task tracker is just a what do you call it? Software we use from another company that's for tracking like particular tasks. And by task, that's like say the tasks that I had this morning. I've got a few bases on Haas, and then I had Gorney Dam and stuff like that. What he does is that he goes, okay, class is working on Gorney Dam today, and he says that he worked 8 hours on it yesterday, so he's going to take 8 hours off of that task, and maybe now that timer is only at 16 hours left on it. So that's the sort of stuff that you'd be seeing if our producer was streaming. Yeah, it's basically Scrum tracking. It is Scrum tracking, actually, or use hands-off for it. So yeah, same thing with over here. Kind of take a look at where we cut the attacker point off from the mainland, essentially, for where the defenders are. And we're just going to take the level brush, continue this over here, and chomp into the land over there, like that. So I don't want this to necessarily be just symmetrical. I like symmetry, but that's not necessary in a lot of these bases. This is not necessary now. So, see what we're going to do over here. Let's just pull some stuff over so we can kind of get a grip on how far it is from one side to the other. So part of the problem over here is that this tree is a little longer than the other one is, but that may not necessarily be a problem. So the edge of this one extends a little bit past this tree. The edge of this one does not extend past this tree. So what happens if we just have a bridge over here instead? Problem solved. See, this wasn't even necessarily a problem. So we can have a bridge, goes over, it goes under here. Oh cool, you're going under the tree. You're going over here, and this is where your kind of attack point ends up. Now what I think I might end up doing is pulling this, get rid of that, and then having it come down like that. That way this whole island is kind of like attacker town, and you've got your fight points over here. No, I would not call the stream twerk in progress if I started dancing on it. Super Dad, from my limited designer knowledge of what garbage collection is, it's just basically cleaning up memory, but that's as best as I can grasp it too. So, all right, so we're going to build a bridge over from this platform over here, going over to here, and then we're going to have another one coming over here to there. I think that's a okay way of doing this. Start pulling these objects over here. So this base will not be entirely symmetrical, but symmetrical enough, I guess is the way I put it. Jojo, man, I got some opinions on PS1 tower fights, and they're a little bit on the opposite side of the spectrum as yours are. Those things were those were pretty slugfesty. So it's going to come up over there. I'm going to have a concrete barrier over here to support that, so I'm going to move that over here. I think if the PS1 towers had a little bit more time spent on them to kind of understand where the problems were in them, I think they'd end up a little bit better. But I don't think those were ideal fights by any stretch. No, I'm not big into, like, I don't know the way you'd call it, Treadstone. I didn't watch any of Briggs versus Connery. I saw some of the highlights for the Merger Smash one, I believe, but I didn't watch the actual Server Smash one this weekend. Roy, I'm glad you rolled into sarcasm as opposed to actually defending it, but yeah, I wasn't a big fan of PS1 towers. Just a spirally staircase that goes up for a while didn't really do it for me. I think it'd be a fun variant of a tower, but on this base we can get away with putting a lot of these catwalks down here, because I think this would look silly at most other ones. But we don't really have a choice if it's over poison water. I use single tiles for that. I don't want to give up this rock cover I have up here. Single tiles. Terminals and what's the other thing you said? Turrets and stuff get added kind of at the end. Unless I'm building specifically for it, like I have something in mind beforehand, those usually go towards the end of it. Like Ziggurat, I think those, can't remember if those were an afterthought or not. The AP turrets where they are, but those were definitely kind of integral to helping out defend that base. There we go. And just have this kind of flow in a little bit more naturally with the dirt over here. So for demand asking, what do you call it? What did towers do for me in PS1? They were fun spawn points essentially, but the actual design of the interior of the tower could have been a lot better. Choke points of that amount of restrictiveness are like fun for a little bit, but the way some of those tower fights panned out, where those things would just go forever, I don't know if that's something I'd really go to bat for as being good. Yeah, I would definitely agree that a lot of it is nostalgia, Swag Rider, but I mean, I won't deny that I had a lot of fun playing that game. God knows how many hours I sunk into that one. Probably not as much as PS2, in all honesty. But I definitely played PS1 for like on and off over a period of like 4 or 5 years or so. So yeah, on a macro scale, towers were awesome. The actual individual level design inside of it, not so much. But that's kind of how we look at towers now in our game, is that towers are a good spawn room, basically. And they're a fun spawn room because you can fight in it. But we've kind of moved away from using towers as a cap point area overall. Some of the ones that still stand, like Regent Rock, are going to get changed so that that last tower point doesn't draw the fight out unnecessarily long, as it currently does. I should move this a little bit lower. This is kind of high up for these platforms to be. Move that down. I've got this vine sitting here, and I don't want players to trip over it because I believe it has collision. Does it? Yeah, this vine has collision, so I don't want players to trip over this thing, so I'm going to leave the dirt here where it is. But yeah, moving points out of the towers I think was a net gain. And making them a little bit less campable with the changes that Matt had asked for, that Malorn or Corey actually recently did. I think those are going to go a long way to making the towers a lot more fun. They were my least favorite fight to play early on in the game, like a little bit after launch, and we've gradually made them better and better. They still got work, but... go here. She's a support, and then I'll probably use some of the trusses from the other bridges over here as well to make it look like it's supported. This is one of those things that, like the pedestrian bridge that Devin is building us, or I think it might be something we've outsourced, I can't remember, over here, that the pedestrian bridge would be a lot better than just using these platforms to create this bridge, because they are kind of, it's a bridge, it's supposed to be a bridge, but these platforms are kind of repurposing for a bridge purpose. So we'll have something that kind of looks more like it fits within the theme once we get that, as opposed to these kind of platform built ones. I'm pretty excited for it. Let's keep these trusses here. Jojo asking about trenches and level design. Trenches and level design in regards to our game is actually pretty important. One of the ways that we've decided, or one of the ways that we found that terrain, when you're making a battlefield in our game, the space between two bases, is that trenches, or basically even just shallow swoopy hills, are going to be some of the best and cheapest in terms of performance and actual even design time, really, to get them in. Swoopy hills are kind of one of the things that's really easy to do because it just works. You duck down in the valley of one of these little hills and you're safe from a lot of stuff. You go to the hill crest on top of it and you can shoot stuff from up there. So, but we're not doing like trenches and like how you'd expect like a World War I fight to go. But trenches in our game are just kind of a place you dip in really quickly as an infantry fighter to take a breather, get away from, just take cover essentially for a short period of time, and then, come out and approach forward. But I don't want players like just having huge slugfests inside of them, because that's basically just an interior fight with dirt rather than boxes. So I'm going to do for this tree is screwing me over here. Do that. You have to go over this. It's a retaining line. Fine, rather. Let's get an army man and see how that looks. I'll fit under there. Should be able to just walk over this too. So this, I'm going to start pulling this out here too. So you can get no reason to restrict you too much over here. So yeah, this combat space will be fun too when you're like actually approaching the enemy. I got to do some stuff like put some more rocks in here between the branches to kind of make it less like columns and more like suggested walls, I guess. Like over here, like you've got like a bunch of rocks in there, so this is kind of safe from that side, but you've got I guess this isn't as porous as the other one. Yeah, this one's kind of more just a walk through, and this one's got a little bit more freedom, but I want to close up like maybe this one over here. or at least yeah, probably this one, and then I'm gonna put something in here to kind of, so let's do that. Outsourcing is just like help with art or something like that. We don't outsource design or code or anything like that. It's usually just like some assets or something we'll get in. Technically, Player Studio is outsourcing too, so. So there we go. So we've got like some cover over here now. This thing is blocked up as I wanted it to be. And then this one's over here is going to get just another rock in it too. So I'm going to take this, move it over, rotate it, and do that. And get this to support this bigger rock. Scale it up a little bit. They're hugging now. So there we go. We've got some cover fighting around over here. Sticking through down. So I'm going to paint paths and stuff over here, but that's not super exciting at this current stage, and we've got a lot of work to do on this before this bad boy's ready. So for instance, the entirety of the Sunder area over here. Yeah, so I start pulling this stuff away too. So we're getting kind of close to L1. We've only got a half hour left for today, but we're kind of getting close to hashing out the what do you call it? The lanes and paths from getting from spawn to cap to attacker to cap, and just fighting with each other in general. So once we're getting close to that, I don't think we're going to get I don't think we're going to finish that on stream today, and I definitely don't think we're going to get to the dolling up phase where you start to make this disaster look nice, but we will get there. The big question marks right now are what we're going to do over here, and what we're doing pretty much on the entirety of this side of the base when it comes to the Sunder spot over here and the attacker point over here. I'm probably going to take a little bit more time on that on my own, because I'm going to have to figure out some props to kind of arrange something in kind of a cool configuration. But we do have stuff that can go. That guy. I don't know what we're doing with this stuff over here. Maybe keep this, depending. If a vehicle spawner come out over here somewhere. Or over here. You have to do a U-turn to go get your attacker buddies. So yeah, still got some big question marks for this base, but it's coming along. Still got to figure out, there's stuff like this over here that may not necessarily stay. I don't want to keep too much natural stuff, but I don't want to get rid of all of it. But Gorney Dam is supposed to be a big man-made object, and I really want to sell that as opposed to using natural objects. But yeah, it needs, and I see you guys kind of talking about what's going on with this cap point here, and this is kind of one of the bigger question marks too with this base right now, is what we want to do with the cap point. I might be able to create some big area in the center that has less choke points on it, like what we got here with all the you know, the doors going into it that are kind of choky. That might just be, what do you call it, partitioning off walls in here so that it's not just because I think some of the gripes that I've seen about the stamp bases that were made are in ones where it's easy to entrench inside of a warehouse building, and then you've got like you know, stuff going against the walls. We're able to just like stick a mana turret up here and just like keep an entire watch on everything. So that's kind of what I want to avoid for these interior warehouses. But if not, there's always the possibility that this big area over here might just be an open air one with some like trees or something in the middle with some pumps and stuff like that. So we got some cool props that we can use. Like I got these turbines here that are going to be, I guess, like a little bit somewhat cover for like light assaults jumping across, trying to switch lanes really quick. Rather than having to expose yourself entirely, you can take a breather over here and just crouch down in a little depression in the middle of this thing. Well, not so much. I was thinking of putting some of these things around the center of this so that it's actually cover, but we'll see how that goes. I don't want to put a multi-story thing in the middle of Gorney Dam, because I don't really know what I would do with it. I can make a multi-story thing in the middle of the dam, but I don't know if that's necessarily better just because it's bigger. Yeah, I like the warehouse really awesome. I think it really just depends on what you build inside of it. I think there's a lot of cap points that are a lot of fun. Zot's Arbitorium, I forget which one it was. It's the one with all the lettuce bays inside of it. I think that one plays out really well. But I think there's some of the stamp ones where I've got, like, you know, raised center point and then some catwalks going around the entire outside ring. And what those are easy to do is just kind of set up shop, and then, you know, once you're entrenched, it's impossible to get you out. So that's where I can understand where warehouses may not be the best mode of action going, you know. Size always does matter in PS2 TOK, but I just don't want to go wild with putting a huge cap point building in the middle when it may not necessarily be good. Yeah, right, that's why I'm thinking I may not use the warehouse for this one. There are a bunch of fun warehouses, but it could be very well boring for this base when, you know, there's only one dam in the game. We might be able to build something cool in the center. It might just be like a power hub or something like that, where it's got a bunch of like amp station props in the center here that you can, you know, kind of go around with. But let's see how that goes. This one I think is going to be, road's going to come in from here, so I'm going to start painting down that. So the road over here. Well, it doesn't necessarily need to be a totally open cap point either. It might be something where the cap point's in like the G building, the big flat square, and let me just pull that one up for. So maybe it's in one of these buildings in the center, and then you've got an area around it that's also, you know, open air, but the cap point extends outside of that. We can also look at stuff like that. So yeah, Treadstone, we're able to use amp and bio props and stuff outside as long as you don't go wild. You know, you go wild with placing a ton of unique ones. Yeah, I feel you on that one, Roy. That's why I'm on the fence about it. So I think we're kind of seeing eye to eye on that one. So let me go get one of these walls I used for over here for this point and partition this stuff off. So pulling this over. So this one's going to be kind of narrow. We got the same thing over here where we've got to block off the players that are over here from being able to do anything really to interfere too much with our spawn point over here. So I'll pull this down a little bit. There are multiple broken down biolab bases. Then again, our game doesn't have any storage of like computer places or box warehouses or anything like that. And technically cut a hole in the murder water, excuse me, right now by cutting this, or excuse me, taking one small water plane, making 8 out of them, making a big donut out of it, and then kind of having it in the center. That might be something that we can do, but it's one of those things where if you have like a lower sunken point like that, it might be a slugfest, but it's entirely possible. You can take a look at that. That's actually not too bad of an idea. Nah, it wouldn't be impossible. It just requires some cleverness on how you're using props. Cutting a hole in the terrain to do so would probably not go over as well, but Yeah, there's definitely different grades of impossibility. There's, we don't have the time for this impossible. There's, can't really do this impossible. There's, technology has not gotten to that place impossible. So yeah, I think this is going to be kind of our little stubbed-in bay for our sunder over here. Let's put this fella down. I'll create a wall with these things. What are you going to do about it? So I'm making these things too high. Take this one. These things are not high at all. I think they're smushed down a little bit too. Nope. These are stock 111. Let's probably rig these together with like a pipes or something alongside these. There's that, and I could probably get away with it over here. Just probably put a set of stairs up there to let you get on top of them and slug it out with these guys, but not too much. Still got to figure out how we're going to get them. Well, for both of these, actually, really. Okay, well, can't get it done if we don't try. So now with this prop just alone being here, my mind's kind of filled it in that maybe we'll have one of those big pools like Mulak has with the poison water in here. And we've got something kind of creating a sort of little reservoir in the negative space over here. Put a couple more water pumps in there. And that way you can shoot across but not be totally exposed the entire time. It's not a complete redesign of Gorney Dam. Some stuff is going to be in the same spots. The dam is still a dam. Bridge is still here, but we're changing the attack points, or we're changing the dynamic, or the dynamics of the base of attackers in the west, or excuse me, defenders in the west, attackers in the east, from defenders in the south, attackers in the north. Just kind of a brief overview for anyone just starting to watch. We kind of want to get something a little bit more intuitive for players here. I think that Gorney Dam has got the potential for a lot of really cool fights, but I don't see them too often as someone's played here a fair bit. They're usually pretty short because it's difficult to get a foothold in here, but that's just my opinion on that. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, Roy, about subdividing these water planes, because adding the extra objects really isn't a big deal. Or, excuse me, 7 extra objects. 2, if we're talking about getting this this underground water thing over here, we can like have like kind of like glass stuff on the sides. It's like, okay, there's poison on there. Kind of like, I don't know, it's gonna be pretty cool, I think, if we do something underground. But gotta think about how we're gonna do that without it being just a shoot over the side into the pit sort of thing. Yeah, there's water over here. It's not really a river so much, but on the other side of this, there's water. If you're asking why there's water over here, because it flows through this. Okay. Got something going over here. I think this is the most unfinished I've ever been doing like a base on air like this, because this is it's difficult to see what's going to come out of this in the current state that it's in, but this is such a big base, it takes over a place like the majority of one chunk, so it's fairly large compared to a lot of the other stuff that we've done. I'm going to use single tiles over here. Yeah, the whole mismatch I was talking about earlier. These two tiles are bigger than any other ones. Just got our trusty 4x4 over here that was not snapped to grid, so it is in the wrong position. Oh, that's why it wasn't fitting. Forgot the tiles are big. So that's kind of what we've got here. So we've got a combat area that I think will work right now. So we're gonna have to connect this to the mainland over here where the spawn points is intended to hook up to. But we've got a very straightforward attacker point going this way. You can swoop around the back, go around this side into this warehouse, which may or may not be a big pit later on, because I think Roy's idea of kind of having it be a little bit underwater, or that's maybe there's like some monitoring stuff down there and pumps and things like that might be pretty cool. So I'm going to think about that for a little while. So I want to do the same on the other side over here. Kind of figure out how that's going to go. Maybe we'll have it be a little bit, I just kicked the camera. Maybe we'll have it be a little bit longer going this way and this way as opposed to vertical over here, so we can get some asymmetry on this base. Because the ones I've recently built have been all very, very symmetrical. Like Nettlemire. So we'll go with something wild. Might be a little long for that. So we're looking at 50 meters down there. Maybe it's not so bad. Maybe I'll just have the land extend over here a little bit. Maybe it'll go like that. There's a teleport room in the spawn. Teleport room is right over here. That part is definitely symmetrical with each other. Same thing with the attacker defender points. The interior cap point and stuff like that is not so much. So yeah, this one I wonder if I just want to do the same thing over here. No, maybe I should just have another one going across the middle. Am I adding too many platforms? A lot of this land is going to go away maybe, so maybe I can get away with that. Maybe it'll just be a little island with a tree on it or something over here that kind of hooks up into the center point. No, this one's just kind of sunk into the ground. It's not really a Zervan style one. Yeah, it's easy to camp when I haven't put down the cover for it yet. So maybe it's going to be a Y fork over here. I mean, most of us do bases that are on our own until they're revamped, essentially. So the ones that I've done recently are like Jenny 9 Holographics, Nettlemeyer Gardens, Hassan Biochem. Those are the ones I can name off the top of my head recently that I've done the like ground up design work, but it's very possible in like a couple of years that somebody will do those for their own. Yeah, so I'm kind of struggling with what I want to do exactly with this. Might as well cut this stuff out though. Thank you. See, I'm not exactly sure with what I want to do up here. So once this stuff is all finished in, I think we've pretty much gotten to the end of what we're going to be able to do for today. But we did get out of this is that we've created all the lanes that we need in this particular base stamped in, and they're going to look a hell of a lot better when when we've got supports and stuff under them, because right now it's a little janky looking. Deep Core, I believe, was Bennett that did that, so that was Malorn's work. So yeah, unsure what I want to do just over here right now. So we were talking about making it so that we could, like over here, where you can very clearly see where you're going to be fighting, doing some like clashes with people over here as you're pushing into this base. I don't want that to... Yeah, maybe this one isn't a good idea. I don't know. And just have a big open pool over here. Yeah, maybe I can just put like a tree or something in the center of a little island over here. Or some pumps or something around it. But this is going to come off, hook up into that over there. What I'll do is take these and steal them. Yeah, Adam made subterranean analysis. That was his baby. So we're going to have it hook up with that, like that. So I got this big area over here. But this should be the majority of like the platforms and stuff that we see here. Because the rest of it's just going to be, like these I think are going to get cut into, so there's more water over here. Same thing with this back area, not really necessary. So if this thing goes underwater, like this doesn't really matter. Whatever. See how that can happen with any real change to the overall flow of the map. This area I think should just, the reason it's kind of like, oh, you got play space over here, it's like, no, there's just dirt here and you think you can play there. If you do that to it, nobody cares. Now anybody can do whatever they want over here. Or can't do anything they want over here. It's got to get polished up, obviously, but... Now, I don't want to have, it says there shouldn't be any land in the middle. It's like I don't want to necessarily have this all be platforms and stuff like that, because it kind of looks a little too industrial for my taste, but we can work with it. I mean, I got these islands over here with the trees on them. Maybe I want to get that across just so there's like, a big tree over here that kind of provides some air cover and stuff like that without it being super overpowering. But these platforms are really naked and bare right now, so it's not really like the final look of this thing is going to be done. There's going to be lights and everything else going on over here because it's pretty ugly right now. We can turn on the Haas and Sky file, it already looks better, so it's always ugly and it's stay when it's sitting in map render as a Sky file. Alright, so we are out of time for today. So I'd like to thank you for tuning in today for PlanetSide 2's work in progress. Today we did some work on the Gurney Dam. I'll be providing, continual updates on Twitter for this particular base as I get along with it more. We still got some work left on it, as we saw today. We kind of ended at the part where we got all the lanes that we want in this particular base. Where the attackers hook up to the cap point, where the defenders hook up to the cap point, where those two lanes kind of intersect with each other. And we got all that stuff kind of done for the most part, but we've got the entirety of the polish and kind of just, finalizing those, making okay, are these lanes good and everything like that. So we still got some work left to do on it, but I will be providing updates. You can check these out on Twitter, as you can see down here, at Xander Klaus, and I'll be providing screenshots over the next, few days as I finalize this. Thank you for tuning in. Next week, I believe Devin will be doing some environment artwork at same time, 2 p.m. Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific. Thanks again for showing up. Please come again next week.